Before Modest Mouse achieved critical acclaim with their 2004 album, Good News for People Who Love Bad News on Epic Records, the band became a powerhouse and indie favorite of the Pacific Northwest.
We got our name from a book. Let's see, I met Eric in a video store. I met Jeremy at punk rock shows when we were super young.
In the year 2000, they gave us their major label debut, the Moon And Antarctica, which paved the way for their success. But even before that came an indie culmination of creativity, a compilation on their soon-to-be former label, Up Records. Hi, I'm Andy Fenstermaker, host of Poetic Wax, a weekly music history series and now audio podcast where I dig into the record collection I've been building since the 1990s to share the history of bands, albums, and songs from within. Today we're diving into this pivotal moment in Modest Mouse's journey, where indie roots met major label aspirations, and the then career-spanning compilation that put a bow on their regional past as they set their sights on worldwide domination. The 80s and 90s saw an influx of indie artists moving to major labels. Modest Mouse wasn't the first to take this leap. Nirvana, the poster child of grunge, broke through with Nevermind. Built to Spill, another indie darling of the Pacific Northwest, joined Warner Brothers. Even Sonic Youth, pioneers of experimental rock, transitioned from SST to DGC in the late 80s, a move that prompted Nirvana to take that similar leap. For many artists, this shift was about survival and growth. Independent labels were often financially limited, making it hard to support extensive touring or widespread album distribution, and money, too, was almost inherently tight. If you wanted to make a career in music, you needed major label backing. Majors offered access to better production facilities, larger budgets, the promise of broader audiences, and, if not monetary advances, at least consistent paychecks. Modest Mouse's move to Epic Records in 2000 mirrored this trend. But the question remained, could they actually retain their fiercely independent spirit while embracing a larger stage? That was yet to be determined. The transition was both logical and creative. Modest Mouse's music had always been deeply tied to the Pacific Northwest roots. Their sound captured the isolation and beauty of the region, throwing in sounds that echoed of others on their Seattle label Up Records. 764 Hero comes to mind, a band that they paired with for the release Wherever You See Fit in 1998. Idaho's Built to Spill also had this kind of quirky P&W ring to it. Though a bit removed from the hype of the 90s grunge, these bands all still had a sound that was definitively Pacific Northwest, often balancing raw aggression with veiled introspection and quirky sarcasm.
They're the kind of band that John Cusack's character in High Fidelity would have put on a mixtape, you know what I mean? Music for music geeks. Smart, original, and even a bit weird.
The move to Epic meant likely stepping outside of their comfort zone, both geographically and creatively.
They seem to be very travel-oriented and things. What do you think of that? You know, is that, did you travel a lot? Whatnot when you were younger or now? Do you travel? Is that important to you in your life? And things, actually, no. They're just metaphors that involve travel. Maybe I'm just a one-trick pony.
As Isaac Brock and the band prepared for the Moon and Antarctica, their first major label album, they grappled with questions of authenticity. Could they evolve artistically without losing the rawness and quirkiness that defined their early work? This period marked a creative pivot where they experimented with some new sounds and ideas while still tethered to their inherently indie ethos. We'll get into the result in a future episode. But first, we need to take a step back and look at the culmination of their indie era, building nothing out of something. When a major change takes place, one often takes a brief step back, turns inward, and looks at the past. Where did you come from? What have you achieved? What fond memories are worth cherishing and holding on to? Bands are kind of similar. Modest Mouse found themselves in precisely this state of mind as the century came to a close and a new one began. And with their major label debut on the immediate horizon, the band left one last mark with Up Records, the compilation Building Nothing Out of Something. Released January 18, 2000, it was a bridge between their past and their future, collecting singles, B-sides, rarities from 1996 to 1998. Pitchfork summed it up nicely. Though Building Nothing Out of Something merely compiles old singles and rarities, it might be the best Modest Mouse release for newcomers' initiation, as well as instant gratification for longtime fans. This batch of songs is easily their most varied. This was a release perfect for any new fans the band garnered on their new epic journey. It was a glimpse at their past, not necessarily a best of, but a glimpse of some of their most pivotal years thus far. Never-ending Math Equation, Interstate 8, Broke, Working on Leaving the Living. All of these are songs I personally remember fondly from the turn of the century. And then there were plenty of deep cuts that showcase the band's experimental side. Other People's Lives, Baby Blue, Sedan, both of these captured the restless, searching quality of their early work. The compilation captured the essence of those indie years for Modest Mouse. AllMusic stated, despite the song's motley origins, Building Nothing Out of Something works well as an album, balancing the group's quirky and often poignant pop songs with their more abrasive rock side. Even then, Building Nothing Out of Something was somewhat of a time capsule. It marked the end of Modest Mouse's indie chapter and sets the stage for their major label debut, The Moon and Antarctica, and their breakout success with Good News for People Who Love Bad News.
I'm not sure I even understand what punk rock is, and I'm pretty sure I don't know what indie rock is. I don't really think any of that matters, you know? We're kind of trying to write our own page and shit on that whole thing and just make songs that we want to hear.
But of course, as major changes take place, one must also turn back around from looking to the past and move forward. In doing so, Modest Mouse buttoned up their indie days and said goodbye. Building Nothing Out of Something was that farewell. And as the Austin Chronicle put, the album is all over the place, caught in the rain on a long, empty highway somewhere, barreling headlong into that bleak unknown. This album groans with all the anger and frustration that makes Modest Mouse music seething and great, somehow planting minor seeds of hope within the vast expanses of society's wreckage. God, I just love that quote. And I can think of no fitter concluding statement. I mean, we've now had more than 25 years of major label Modest Mouse since this release. Their most recent, as of this video, being The Golden Casket in 2021. And at the very least, those first few albums on Epic would find the Chronicle's statement quite worthy accompanying words. Hope and perseverance amidst destruction and carnage. And if you want further proof of how those words ring true, you gotta check out the story of Float On, the greatest perseverance anthem of all time, off of Good News for People Who Love Bad News.